Our main man, Ben Shabibo, took on the Ollie London saga, the Ollie London case. Ollie London is a sick freak who wanted to be Jimin and said that they were Jimin. Is a British rich kid and a reality TV psycho who now has decided that the very same people that, if he is genuine with their claim of being non-binary, and their pronouns, their preferred pronouns are co and Rian, for the record, is pulling off a Rachel Dolezal specifically so they can get a little bit of clout from the reactionary right in the United States of America. They are exactly what conservatives talk about when they say, what if someone was faking that they're being trans? Like, that's why we can't have this. Whether they're genuinely non-binary or not, I don't know. But this person is absolutely faking, like, being Korean and bastardizing the trans experience specifically so that reactionaries can use them as a talking point to say, see, we were right. When you can't find someone who's like a trans trender, you go and you make your own.
Identifies Korean. That's just my culture. That's my home country. That's exactly how I look now.
But people are very angry at Ollie London. What's making you so mad, bro? Bigotry?
He changed his fucking editors. Like, he's just doing this shit now. It's so... Okay, I gotta pee. Fuck.
Is just as Korean as Caitlyn Jenner is a woman. Ollie London is a big fan of a particular Korean pop star named Park Ji-min and decided to have $150,000 worth of plastic surgery in order to, quote-unquote, look more Korean. And now Ollie London identifies as trans Korean. Here's Ollie London explaining their new identity.
I identify as Korean. That's just my culture. That's my home country. That's exactly how I look now. And I also identify as Jimin. That's my Korean name. But not only that, I know it's a little bit confusing for some people. Nobody's ever come out as Jimin or Korean. But this is something that you guys know if you follow my journey for the last 8 years. I've really struggled with identity issues, with who I am.
Trans Koreans are Koreans.
Basically, I covered this last week where I talked about how this person was absolutely just using this as an opportunity to get like a little bit of clout, okay? And it's clear that that's what's going on, so that right-wing reactionaries could hop onto this and be like, trans people are silly, trans people are ridiculous. Look, this person is like obviously not Korean. They're claiming that they're Korean. Look at how crazy this person is. Look at how much of a freak this person is. To then turn around and literally say like, this represents all trans people. And they don't care about giving this person clout. I don't understand how you can turn around and, I don't know, seek shelter, I guess, or seek clout from an audience of people who literally want you to be euthanized. Because the reality is, like, this person and his followers think you are a freak. They want you to be murdered. They want you to be euthanized. So it's wild that you would turn around and seek refuge with them for a crumb of clout. You missed it, but Shabiba already said Ollie is as Korean as Caitlyn Jenner is a woman, hella transphobic out the gate. Yeah, oh, for sure. I already know. Here's one thing Ollie London could have done if they genuinely wanted to be Korean. Learn the language. Live there for a couple years, and then apply for citizenship. But Ollie London didn't do any of that. You call them a freak too? Yeah, he is they are a freak, okay? They are a freak. Because anyone who seeks shelter with the Republican Party, if they are legitimately non-binary, whether they're legitimately non-binary or not, it doesn't even matter. They're a freak regardless because they think that they're fucking Jimin. If you think you are a BTS fan to the degree where you're like literally like, I am this person, I identify as this person, you're a freak. It's not about being non-binary. It's about being a different person and literally trying to wear their face. I don't know why people have this immediate notion to be like, well, every experience is valid. That will be used against you to actually shit on well-documented and legitimate valid experiences by the likes of people like Ollie London and the conservatives who will use that. Calling them a freak is a bit odd, sorry. No, the fuck it's not, dude. If you're literally getting plastic surgery to be Jimin, you're a fucking freak. It has nothing to do with being non-binary. It is a completely separate concept. If you can't fit that in your fucking brain, I don't know what to tell you. And by the way, there are a billion fucking cis people that are freaks too. And there are trans people who are freaks as well. Not because they're trans, but because they have freak-like fucking points of view on the planet. But go off. There are a lot of leftists who come from a place of empathy that get duped. Don't be like those leftists who who get fucking duped by people like this. And they're like not even hiding it. They're literally like, I am going to fuck you over by adding Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity, and I am going to become a person that they can weaponize against you if you're a trans person. And you're out here literally like, no, sorry, it's a little fucked up that you're doing this.
Trans Koreans are Koreans. And if I say it over and over, it becomes true. Now, you're going to have to explain to me why Ollie London is not a Korean. Really, and if you say things like, well, Ollie London has never been Korean. Yes, but trans women are not women. I mean, not a single trans woman has ever been a woman. Not one. And if you say, well, Ollie London doesn't even have any of the characteristics of being a Korean absent surgery, I will say to you, neither does a trans woman. And if you say to me that Ollie London has never gone through the experience of actually being Korean, didn't grow up Korean, I'll say neither has a trans woman. There are zero distinctions, none, between being trans Korean and being a trans person of another sex. In fact, the only distinctions cut in favor of being transracial rather than transsexual. You can more easily shift your race, which is, in fact, a fluid concept.
See, this is why this shit sucks. You understand? I mean, you already understand this, especially if you're a trans person. You already understand that this is a project to be created to weaponize against your entire existence, as though there is not enough like discrimination already occurring. There's a difference between your race and your gender. This distinction, regardless of what people think, is obvious. That's precisely why gender is a social construct. It's all the different working parts that tie into our comprehension of what your gender is. There's a social construct that surrounds race as well. But someone who has made the legitimate effort to become a Korean national or a Korean person is entirely different than someone who's like, I'm a Korean person now because I got eye surgery. There is no dysphoria for race. That's also the same reason why we disregard people who feel as though they are like animals and stuff. Dysphoria is not a requirement as a trans medicalist opinion. I know it's not a requirement, but there is no way you can make this fucking argument, dude. Would you like to make this argument? Then go ahead. I want to have like, this destroys, here, you want to know what it is? You want to know why this is like really fucking annoying to me? Unfortunately, if you're looking for me to like absolutely obliterate this point of view, I can't, because people like this literally destroy this argument. And people like you in the chat who fucking turn around and advocate for certain things literally also help this argument craft. You get that, right? Like, you want everything to be a valid concept. And if that's your fucking point of view, then yeah, people like Ollie London are going to shatter that. And just because dysphoria is not a requirement to be trans does not mean that like it is a legitimate thing that has been well documented throughout time and makes up a pretty sizable chunk of trans people's existences. That doesn't make you a trans medicalist to recognize that. Aren't you making a bad argument? Then if it can be destroyed by this, there is no good argument against it, unfortunately. If you believe that every experience is fucking valid unconditionally, then you have to acknowledge that Ollie London has neo-pronouns ko and rian, and they're actually a Korean and maybe even Jimin. But that person is not playing in good faith. They're not like saying this is legitimate and this is actual. This is real. But you don't operate that way. And if you do, you're fucking crazy. I'm sorry. If you literally think that like this person is unironically fucking Korean and also their neo-pronouns are ko and rian, and that they're actually a Korean person and that is similar to the trans experience, then you are playing into the fucking meme. They are not actually Korean, but still deserve to be respected in their identity as a non-binary person. Yeah, which is why I'm using they, them pronouns. And I know that a lot of people get triggered by this because they're like, a lot of people claim non-binary people are looking for attention and that's why they're doing it. Well, this person is literally looking for attention. And if you come in here and you're like, we have to acknowledge their pronouns of ko and rian, like, I guess I'm too transphobic. I'm too old and therefore transphobic if that's like where we're at. So I'll just be honest with you. As someone who advocates for trans rights, I don't understand it. And it literally does not fit in my brain. Okay.
Right. Race is a social construct, apparently. If race is a social construct, you should be able to fluidly shift between the races far more easily than sex, which is a biological concept deeply ingrained and rooted. I
love this because like Ben doesn't think race is a social construct and Ben doesn't think sex is a social, or not sex, but gender is a social construct. But for this argument, for the sake of this argument, he's like making it seem like he does believe in it just so he can fucking devalue trans people. You don't inherit your gender from your fucking parents in the same way that like your race is tied to your genes and to your parents, and you are born a specific race. The social construct of race revolves around the exclusion of non-whites, for example, like the one drop rule, or the different ways that we have historically and still to this day oppressed specific races. Transracial is the thing. I invented it. If you can be transgender, you can be transracial. Live your life to the fullest. Be who you want to be and spread love. Hashtag Ollie London. Like, this person's getting like 10 fucking retweets, dude. They're not even doing a good enough job because the people that they're trying to get fucking clout from despise them. Like, they want them to be, those people want them to be murdered. You know what I mean? There are definitely ultra woke people that identify this way. I know a few that say the response to the attack helicopter meme should just be the respect the person's attack helicopter identity. Yeah, extremely online weirdos, dude. Okay? Yeah, that's insane. Sorry. Like, you're not a fucking attack helicopter, and Ollie London is not Korean. You can find people that, I mean, there are now maps, you know, minor attracted person shit. Does that make it right? No. So who gives a fuck that there are people? Yeah, they're crazy. Shut the fuck up. Man, there's a whole rabbit hole of adult maps that identify as being underage. Obviously really super online cringe shit, but I've seen it on Twitter. That's what I'm saying. Yes, dude. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm going to use like really fucking aggressive terms here, but some people have fucking mental health problems that either go unaddressed or rather they just lean into it. Okay? That's it. You don't have to look deeper into it to be like, oh, I wonder what's going on here. This must be a valid identity or a valid reason to feel this way. Like, no. And I know that people look at that and go, well, that's a slippery slope argument that you can extend to trans existence. And I don't think that you can do that. And I'm not doing that. It surprises me how you can say that this person cannot be Korean, but he can say that he has no gender. First of all, if you recognize that they're non-binary, you don't say he, you say they. Secondly, in the real world, there are going to be people who go to the extents to absolutely bastardize certain concepts for personal gain and clout. That does not make up the overwhelming majority of the trans experience in the same way that like conservatives will imply it does, to devalue trans people and make it seem like they're faking it for attention or faking it because they want to win like fucking weightlifting competitions, as though like that's a good enough reason to literally get fucking obliterated in every other part of your lives, like, because we make trans existence a living hell for trans people. But ultimately, you just have to recognize that some people are just fucking bad faith. I guess the place I draw the line is like when you claim you're a different race than you actually are, or when you claim that you're a different species than you actually are. And age too. You can't like think you're a different age. I mean, there's a bunch of shit that you just understand. Their pronouns are also Korean. I find it funny that leftists feel the need to defend this. Yeah, I don't understand neo-pronouns. I don't get it. I hit everybody with the they them. Okay, I'm a Joe Biden Andy on that end. I know that this is a big point of contention for the Minecraft stan Twitter crowd. Like when people are like, I'm Fae or fairy, or I think that's the thing that people will say, and they identify as like being a fairy or something. I don't get it. I'm too fucking old, man. Okay. I also don't fully understand how to fucking do neo-pronouns. Like, how do I just say Fae when I'm referencing a person? I just wish that there were no fucking gender pronouns in the English language, especially because like I had to learn gender pronouns when I learned English, coming from a Turkish background where we don't have any gender pronouns in the Turkish language. And then I had to learn this shit. And now people are like, actually, there's a lot more that you need to learn. But I also feel like most people that use neo pronouns don't stress being called they them. Like, I've never had someone be like, how dare you not call me Faye and regard me as they them. So it's like, okay.
And so I say to you, during Pride Month, live your truth, Ollie. Live your truth. Ollie London is just as Korean as Caitlyn Jenner is a woman. Ollie London's pronouns, it should be noted, are now they, them, core en. Those are the pronouns. And I've been told that there are many different types of pronouns by no less a source than the New York Times, that people have been using neo-pronouns. So there really is no problem here.
Once you have accidentally correctly gendered a trans woman, it's over. Every argument goes back to that. Okay, boys? Here it is. Okay, and I'm using the gender neutral boys here.
Transgender woman from Orange is the New Black.
I never watched that show.
I've never watched that show either, but she's on the cover of Time magazine.
Oh.
Or he's on the cover of Time magazine.
Ben Shapiro has correctly gendered Caitlyn Jenner in the past and has stopped himself and then literally turned around and misgendered Caitlyn Jenner deliberately because he does it out of pure malice. He does it because he's a grifter. So once you do that, you lose your I'm transphobic card, okay? You lose the argument to ever talk about a gender beyond like a social construct. If you ever get caught correctly gendering a trans person and then stop yourself and then literally misgender them, and there is a video of this, the moment you do that, you give the game away.
Orange is the New Black.
I never watched that show.
I've never watched transgender woman from Orange is the New Black.
I never watched that show.
I've never watched that show either, but she's on the cover of Time magazine.
Oh.
Or he's on the cover of Time magazine.
That's it. It's over. It's a wrap. It's GG's. You literally correctly gendered a trans woman and then stopped yourself and said he. It's done. You're doing it on purpose. It's a perfect clip. Why is it a perfect clip? Because it betrays the values that Ben supposedly has. You recognize that that person is a woman. That person identifies as a woman, and you literally would never point to them and be like, can you get my bag from him? If the trans star on Orange is the New Black is out in the real world and she's sitting at a cafe and she has your bag and you point to a random person, in Ben Shapiro's world, he makes it seem like he would say, can you get my bag from him? Pointing to a trans woman. But you would never do that. You just would not do that. So use that energy to recognize how, how you associate certain things with gender. Ultimately, this person is wild. I mean, they're crazy. Not because they're non-binary. They're crazy because they fucking think they're someone else. And that's not valid. It's just not. You can see the difference between an invalid existence and someone who's doing it specifically for grift and someone who's not.
That London, quote, felt strongly attached to Korea and the Korean culture and feels much more connected to this than his own culture.
So connected to Korean culture, yet like literally doesn't even know how to speak the language. Literally a year ago was saying, I'm not Korean. I just want to look like Jimin. Now is full-blown saying, I am Korean, and adding a bunch of reactionary Republicans specifically to join the cause and advocate for him to bastardize trans existence. Yeah, go ahead.
In fact, as Ali London, their self, now says, quote,
says a lot about Ben that like they're correctly using the right pronouns of a person only when they agree with them.
Put all their time to threatening and bullying me for being non-binary, but won't speak out against human rights abuses in China. How come woke are silent on China's concentration camps, clamp down on democracy in Hong Kong, or oppression in Tibet? Not a terrible question, Ali London. Ali London also writes, I'm calling out the woke mob.
Maybe this is how we get reactionaries to believe in trans people. I don't know. Just have a bunch of these fucking psychotic grifters come out so that reactionary propagandists can like act like they believe it.